Hello, everybody. Welcome to the interviews for the 2020 North American Systemic Constellations Conference, which will be held in Colorado Springs, Colorado, from November 11th to November 15th. I'm Jim Shine. I'm the program chair for the conference, and today my guest is Tanja Meyburgh from South Africa, and she's doing a pre-conference workshop actually Wednesday morning. You're starting us off, Tanja, and you're also doing a workshop. So I'll get to those in a minute. But first, I was wondering if you could describe how you got into constellations. What's your history in the field and all that? So
I first had my first experience of constellations in 2002 with Dr. Ursula Franke, who came to South Africa. It was quite a small workshop experience, and I didn't know anything about the work. I just went along and ended up volunteering to have my own constellation done. And I think just through that personal experience of the power of the work in my own family system, I was quite convinced that that was the work that I was looking to do. So I went to my first intensive in 2003 in Sist in Germany, and then started a training here with some of the international trainers, the German trainers, in 2005. So I've been involved in organizing, running, and training facilitators in South Africa since 2005. So really pioneering the work here. It was very little known at the time, and I've taken 17 groups through a 2-year training process. So it's been a long road of pioneering, and now it's quite firmly established in South Africa. We have an association, and I chair that association, and I'm also involved in the South African intensive, which we're doing now for the second time. So we did the first one in 2018. So my primary work is constellation work and has been since 2004. Yeah.
yeah, so you're one of the elders around the world. Okay. And your pre-conference workshop, the title is Land Constellation, Immigration, Colonization, and Relating to the Ancestors of the Soil. Would you like to describe that a little bit?
Sure. I think my interest in this work, I was invited specifically to come and do some land constellation work, because this is something that I've developed quite a strong interest in South Africa, both through my personal experience of living in an area where there were first people and people who were removed from the land to make space for white colonization. So I've been personally engaging with the subject for a long time, looking at what does it mean to be a white South African who lives on land that has been effectively taken away from other people. Who are the ancestors of the land where I live? Who are the people who lived here before me, and before them, who were the first people? So in South Africa, we also have a lot of sort of political conversations at the moment around land redistribution and what it would mean to return some of the land that was taken from the indigenous people back to, well, that's the question, who do we return it back to? So land is a big question, and what's happened for me in the looking at the relationship between people and land is realizing that there's a much deeper connection that was once possible between human beings and land that we've kind of lost. So the land constellation work is really acknowledging, where is it that we live? Who was it that lived there before us? What are the lands that our ancestors come from? What is the land where we were born? And sort of looking at all these sort of multifaceted dimensions of the building of our identity around land. And it makes sense to start off a conference traditionally with looking to the first people or the people of the land. So in many traditional cultures, in the African traditions that I'm trained in, the very first thing that you do when you go to any place where you want to do healing work, or where you travel to any place, the first thing to do is to greet the ancestors of the soil, to say hello to those that lived there, those that died there, those that are buried there. So that's what we'll be doing in that pre-conference workshop. We'll be doing a land constellation around, really in a ceremonial way, greeting the ancestors of the land, of the place where the conference will take place, and acknowledging all the different streams of ancestry that have come from around the world or around the country to be there, and to give a space and a voice to all of those, because the traditional understanding here in South Africa is that until we've done that, we don't really have permission to do the work where we are working. And also we need to be in right relationship with those that were there before if we want the healing to really be effective. So I'll be taking people through some smaller exercises just to have a personal experience of those different types of connections to ancestors that are related to land, and then also bring it into a collective constellation work that we can do for the best resource and support for the conference to go well, and to be held on a good firm foundation of ancestral support.
Thank you. So your workshop is on embodying life through ancestral connections, a dance experience. And we had some technical difficulties, so this is take two. But
Okay.
if you could give us a quick rundown on that, that would be great. Thanks.
Sure. So this is a body of work that I've developed over the last 4 to 5 years with a colleague of mine, Sean Palmer. I brought the constellation piece, and she comes in as a dance and movement drama therapist. So we've integrated these two forms to develop what we first called moving constellations. So we started with a juxtaposition of the drama and the dance work with the constellations in a way as a resource, as a warm-up, and an integration. And then what we realized that actually the two became quite difficult to keep apart. So what we've developed is a body of work that looks to the body and movement and music as a resource for the constellations, and also as another way of accessing the wisdom and the sort of the insight of our ancestral lineages, both through the field and the representatives, but also through our own bodies and our own blood and bones, through the genetic memory that's held within us. And we find that when we're dancing, we can connect in a way through an ancient language that many of our ancestors knew. I mean, many of our ancestors used to go into ceremony, used to go into dance in many of the rites of passages. So we work with connecting to the ancestral lineage through movement, through dance, through myth, through storytelling. And we also work with initiation, rites of passage, different life stages. We work with mythology. So it's a very rich offering of different streams of work, but the kind of the philosophy and the underlying thinking is constellation. But we have this beautiful resource of the movement and the dance that allows for a sort of active movement meditation where one can stay very present in the moment, and one can go to quite difficult places without the disassociation that can happen with sort of accessing kind of deeper ancestral traumas. But what we really focus on in this work are the gifts and the resources that are available, because a lot of in the dance one can really access a lot of joy and celebration and start to feel some of the connections to our ancestors that take us into more I would just say more joyful places. So it's somehow,
Sounds
it
wonderful.
goes deep. It goes deep like constellation work, but it also, there's a lightness and there's a movement. And one of the rules of the ancestral connection, or I say one of the guidelines, is just to keep moving. And as long as you stay in movement, you can move through whatever's happening there for you, even if you're working with a micro movement. So it's a really guided process. It's very easy to get into. You don't need to be a dancer. You don't need to be, you can have two left feet. It's absolutely fine. But we use the language of the body to communicate what we would normally communicate through representatives and perhaps through language, or even healing sentences, although we do sometimes bring the healing sentences into the movement meditation as well. So really what it'll be is I'll give a short introduction of the work, and then invite everybody onto the dance floor and do a short movement wave, which means we'll go through a warm-up into some active moving constellations, using do work in triads, work in dyads, where you're actually dancing the constellation, perhaps with your lineages, perhaps with a resourcing ancestor, depending on what's sort of living in the field of the group. And then that takes through the wave into sort of a quite a strong expression and releasing, and then the wave slows down into integration and an opportunity to really just gather together the experience.
Why is constellation such a passion for you?
I always follow my own personal experiences where I've had, really strong personal development experiences. That's the direction that I go. I'm a firm believer that you need to do your own work before you can do it with others. And it's spoken so strongly and deeply to me, the dance work, that it's just a natural passion. And the music, I mean, the music it's really incredible how, when one learns how different beats and different music can carry different therapeutic experiences. I mean, you can imagine with the African music that's available, what a resource that is as well. So I'll bring that along with me.
Great.
Yeah, world music from all over the world. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Anything else you want to add before we close?
No, just that I'm really excited to come. It's my first visit to the US.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work in Europe, and I've been to the intensive in Australia, but this is really now my first US visit. So I feel very honored to come and also to be part of the greeting of the ancestors of the soil there. It feels like a huge honor. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Tanja, and looking forward to seeing you in November. Thanks very much.
Thank you.